Hey everyone, this is Jeremy with Teletone. We just released a new instrument called Soulfi. We have an in-depth walkthrough on our YouTube channel as well as our website. We also have a video exploring the different drum kits and samples. We have a video kind of talking about the inspiration behind the instrument, as well as like kind of the method for how we recorded and processed these samples. But in this video, we want to talk about all the different beats that are contained in Soulfi. And we're going to go through as many as we can. We normally describe tempo as being fat, dead, dry drums. Soulfi is full of tight, crispy, punchy drums. There's quite a bit of variety in there, but basically that is the sound that we were going for. And we probably won't get through all the beats today, but we're going to try to cover as much as we can. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So all of our instruments are encoded for Kontakt Player. They're going to show up in the Libraries tab on the left-hand side. And it's going to load with this beat, 120 Soulfi. All of the numbers that are listed in front of the beat, they are just a suggestion. You can play these at any tempo without it time stretching or doing anything to the samples themselves. So this is where you're going to select your beats. There's a bunch of different folders that are organized by BPM. And the reason we have it load with 120 Soulfi and tempo loads with 120 tempo is that in most DAWs, when you make a new project, it's just going to default to 120. So we thought maybe we should just make a beat that sounds decent at 120 in case that's where your starting point is. So we'll just go ahead and start with this one. This is what you're going to hear when you load it up. If you're new to our instruments, there's a lot to look at here, but all you have to do to get started is just press middle C. I'll hop over to the beat maker to show you one thing. All of these numbers represents different variations on the same type of beat, and you flip through those by playing C through B. The C, the octave higher, is blank, which I'll talk about probably a little bit later about why. But you just play legato and it won't skip any beats. It'll just continuously play. So I pretty much always have the fill programmed into number 7. Number 8 is blank, both because when you're making a beat and you want to move things around, it's nice to have a place to copy and paste the measures into without deleting anything. But also it allows you to, when you're performing these beats, you can trigger this blank one and it'll start the sequence. Because if you may just want to, like, let's say you're coming into the beginning of a song or out of a bridge and you just want to play like the last half of the fill. Well, whenever you play the fill, it's going to start from the downbeat. So this allows you to kind of like start the sequence and then come in wherever you want to. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, 100 paid checks. "113, To Be in Love." This is probably in my top 5 of all the beats and sound design of this instrument. I really like this one. Again, that's 113, To Be in Love. 110, Can't Get Enough. Nice, tasteful use of cowbell there. All right, here's a really soulful one, 111, Like Mine. 113 Street Crossed. On this one, I had the snare panned up the middle, but then the width turned up all the way. And then did some really drastic panning with the hi-hat and actually the rest of the kit. So let's hear this one. '87, Someday. '83, Not to Worry. All right, let's slow down a little bit. Let's go to 64, Flow. '112, Good Times. '126, This Lady. This would be one where you might want to use that empty blank at the end, because this is kind of a fill that's supposed to hang for like a measure. And then you come back in. '85, Go Easy. '109, 6/8. This is kind of a 6/8 beat that is meant to fit into 4/4 in case you're used to working in 4/4 and you don't want to change your DAW to 6/8 or you don't know how. This kind of shows you how you could do 6/8 and 4. So I've changed my steps to 12. And then for technical reasons, instead of using swing, we will need to use feel in order to swing this. '101, Ongoing. '74, Flow Motion. This uses the Woody kit, which I believe is using a marching snare drum. Tuned up pretty tight, if I remember right. It's actually using the crack articulation. Here's another really reverbed out one. This one's called 72 Introverb. That is featuring the vintage spring reverb. We are using quite a bit of it on that one. 114 Lady Yaya. All of these beats pretty much get progressively more involved and busier as you go along. If you are browsing through all these beats and you're always triggering measure 1, that is fine, but that is usually the simplest iteration of the beat. If you want to hear kind of where the beat ends up going a little bit more, then you can always just start with like the F or the G. But totally up to you. I'm going to try to give a lot of contrast between these different beats. This is 110, It Is Your Birthday. Quite a bit different than the last one. You can see that this one is utilizing swing a decent amount. And while we're talking about swing, let's pull up this beat 65 pull drag. This utilizes a little bit of swing, but it is also using the feel lane. Basically, this allows you to push and pull the beat. In this instance, I believe that this beat drags quite a bit towards the midpoint of the measure and then catches back up to kind of simulate the sound of sampled vinyl, stuff that Jay Dilla did, where there's kind of an ebb and flow within the measure itself, which is really fun. '93 Tenmo. This one's uses this dark and cloudy kit, which I think I used quite a bit. Okay, 123, Do You Remember? '170 Barn Burner. Now I know that we said that the core of this, we're trying to go for kind of the sound of the drum sound from soul music from the mid-50s through the 70s. But I'm kind of showing you a lot of the outer perimeter of the instrument. to just kind of show how much you can do with the sound. There are quite a few beats that are like more straight down the middle, but there are just a lot of little tricks that I wanted to show you that to kind of show you like a different side of the instrument. 92 noisy hats. This one's fun because I use the amped, one of these amped hi-hats, and when you compress them all the way, there's a lot of noise, and I'm using the kick to basically act as like side chaining the hi-hats. So you can hear, as it plays, you hear this noise floor coming up and then getting kind of pushed down by the kick. '83 Enter Solstice. This is one that is a little bit less processed. So this one uses some of the Tal muted toms. It looks like we have a 13-inch Rogers and a 15-inch Ludwig. Let's listen to this beat 110 Nudge. And we have some flanger happening on that one. If you look at the hi-hat lane, you can see how much I was using the different articulations on the hi-hat. Some like open, half open, as well as some stomps in there. And speaking of articulations, let's look at this rim sum beat. And this utilizes the side stick articulation quite a bit on the snare. A lot of nice percussion stuff happening in that one that uses the woodblock, claps, and low bongo. 103 Lay Back. I was going to point out that on a lot of these, whenever you have like a clap or a woodblock or something, it's just happening at the same time as the snare. I think it sounds a little more compelling, at least to me, when you throw off the timing, push some ahead, some behind a little bit. I think that really helps to make it just sound a little more, not so much like a drum machine. And I usually push these rides behind too. If you listen real closely to the rides, you'll hear what I'm talking about. That was 103 Layback. A little bit of a left turn here. Let's do 108 Glitter Bomb. One big upgrade that we did with Soulfi is we added some new reverbs, and you see these 3 spring reverbs. I leaned on these a lot, and let me just show you in manual mode kind of how they sound with the snare here. And I'm using a reverb on the kick too, which I don't normally do a whole lot, but these spring reverbs sound really good even on the kick. But we'll just listen to a little bit of this beat. 69 Nightcap. 78 velour. I love the sound of the kit on this one, mixed with the sound design we have going. We have this DW Pancake kick drum, which I think I demonstrate a little bit more about in the Muse video. Here's a Pearl synth blend. This is a Pearl snare drum mixed with some white noise from my Juno 60. And then some of these hi-hats. It says muffled. Anytime it says muffled, I use this, it was like a packaging material that came with some cymbals that I bought that kind of, you can lay over the top of your cymbals to make them sound more mellow. So we recorded a bunch of these both ways, with that dampening on top of the cymbals and without. So this is 78 velour. 89 Lopside. This is one where I used a combination of an 8th note swing, so you get to hear what that sounds like. And then I also drew a little bit of stuff in the feel lane. But let's hear a little bit of this one. So that can get really interesting whenever you're doing an 8th note swing and then edit the feel on some of the 16th note subdivisions. And you all will probably come up with even more interesting ideas than I have. All right, same BPM, 89 accordion. This is where I'm using some percussion to make a little bit of a chord type sound. And again, that is done using the tune lane. And what is, it is the Apple box again. And there's kind of like two different tones to it when you really listen to it, which makes it sound more like a chord. 93 traditional. This is our version of traditional. On any one of these, if you want to hear the beat where it sounds like it was played a little bit softer, it's kind of like what we did with feel. All you have to do is check velocity and then pull it down a little bit if you just want to hear this a little lighter touch. Or you can go the other direction. And then whenever you're done, you can uncheck it if you want to commit to it. 95 Leadfoot. This one is named for two reasons. For one, it is like really heavy on the kick, and it basically these velocities are pegged out. And also, virtually everything else happening in the beat maker is going to be behind the beat, with the exception of some stomp hats that I wanted to put more on the beat. But basically, everything is dragging except for the kick. And the result, I think, is pretty interesting. And then there's also an 8th note swing happening on this one too. 98 Trailer. This is the beat that I use in the trailer. And whenever we post the trailer, Everyone always asks what beat I was using, and I always forget. So I thought, well, why don't I just name it trailer? So this is the beat from the trailer. If at any point you want to hear any of these beats with different kits, all you have to do is start clicking through them with in this case. But these are all going to carry different percussion loaded in. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that because, you know, what once was a chime is now a clap. So sometimes you have to kind of take note of what percussion was in there if you want to replicate that with a different kit. 93 Tenmo. '87, Tell Me a Secret. This one has some fun percussion about halfway through. That's using the Warm Blanket kit. All right, let's bring it back up again. 124 Steve Land. Let's hear this. A lot of energy, a lot of fun with that one. 115 Behind the Drum Shield. These sound really, really tight and dead, like if you're sitting behind a drum shield. Think of like, you know, old gospel music. That one's using a Pearl orchestral piccolo snare. Very, very tight. And then Leedy and Ludwig. And then muffled dark of these K Master Sound hi-hats. And some Tal muted toms. All right, similar BPM, totally different vibe. 116 Little Thoughts. '107 Loose Ends. This one uses a snare, and whenever you see crack or knock, that is a different articulation that we did that is similar to a side stick, but it's basically where you hit it's like hitting the rim and the head at the same time, but not a rim shot. So it's kind of a little bit of a normal hit and a little bit of a side stick together. '109 A Party B. This one has some pretty extreme sound design stuff happening, but I really like this sound. That is using the tube amp kit. We probably won't go too much longer here. I have no idea how many beats I've shown now. This is 120 Triple Dip. a bunch of different ways that you can either use 6/8 or basically different variations on fast 6/8, which is like a swung 4. A lot of ways to get there. This kind of shows you one creative way of getting there. And whatever time signature your DAW is in, that is how tempo will operate. But you do have to do a little bit of math sometimes. Like in the 6/8 instance, you'll want to adjust these steps in order to get the right amount of steps and subdivisions that you are wanting for 6/8. 83 Sueded. I remember really liking the sound of these because I am using that dark and cloudy kit again. All right, 89 Spanx. This is another one that uses that Apple box, where are we on? Perk 3. Once again, tuned down all the way, low end turned up, and then making a little bit of a chord progression here with the tune lane. And sometimes I'm doing some pretty crazy compression for the effect of it. You can find that in one of two places, either with distress here for the whole instrument, but a lot of times I'm individually compressing these two to make those hi-hats really just like jump out aggressively. So you can always turn that down in either one of those places. Okay, I think I want to end with this beat, 93 Cellar. This one utilizes some percussion that has been tuned down pretty drastically. What are we using here? I know there's a cabasa tuned all the way down, claps tuned down a little bit, and then rims tuned down all the way. And you'll hear those come in, I think around the 4th or 5th measure, a little more. This one uses one of those muffled rides, but also it is tuned down all the way. And this is a towel muted snare that has also been amped. Now, of course, you can make your own beats too. You can initialize the entire thing to reset all the drum details, all the sound design, everything in the beat maker, and then just start making your own beats. And when you do that, you will use the cog menu to save your beat, and then it's going to show up under user beats right here. This is where all of your beats will be saved. Okay, I think that's going to do it for our beats video. Like I said, we also have a different video doing an in-depth walkthrough. We have another one explaining the recording process, how we chose the drums, the mics, everything to get the sound for Soulfi. We did another video showing the kits and samples individually that make up Soulfi, and we're probably going to make more, so keep an eye out at Teletone Audio. Follow us on Instagram. teletoneaudio.com is our website. Thank you so much for watching. Soulfi is out now.